Hare Krishna, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, chapter 13. So we will, most likely 99% we will complete the 13th chapter and then we will start 14th chapter next time. Hare Krishna, thank you. So thank you for joining. We will start with Mangalacharan prayers. I will share the screen. Hopefully you can see the screen. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we will resume chapter 13 and we covered till 13.23 and we discussed about the nature of entanglement of the jiva, and also in 13.23 we discussed the role of Paramatma in the operation or in the life of jiva. Jiva is always eternal. I mean, it's eternal, so there's no life of jiva, but the support, the upadrishta anumantacha, the guidance that is being provided by Paramatma to the jiva as a overseer, as a permitter, upadrishta, anumanta, all that we discussed till 13.23. So we are going to start from 13.24. So let me share my screen again and I will share the whiteboard. Okay. So I hope you can see the whiteboard. So yes. We have, okay, great, thanks. So we are going to start from 13.24 and we will go up to the end of the chapter, which is 13.35. So not about, but exactly 12 verses to go today. So 13.24 to 26 is one section. And here, Lord Krishna is describing one very important aspect. which is how to understand this knowledge. What is this knowledge? It is the 6 items or 3 pairs. I hope you remember that. Okay. Jnana-jyeya, kshetra-kshetrajna. And what is the third one? Purusa and
Prakriti.
Prakriti. Very good. So, how to understand this knowledge? This knowledge, which is encompassed in these categories. So, how to understand this knowledge? Point number 1. Point number 2, benefits or the benefit of understanding it. All right. So, Lord Krishna has told us about these 6 things or 6 items, how to understand it and what is the benefit. And what is the answer? How to understand? Just to clarify upfront, what is the answer to this? We discussed last time, very important verse. Already it has been discussed, how to understand this knowledge. Who can tell?
Path of this knowledge is through bhakti.
Very nice. By bhakti yoga or by bhakti, by Krishna bhakti. Which verse says this very clearly? Which verse? 13 point. See, these are some of the important verses of this chapter and you must know them. For the serious student of Bhagavad Gita, he should be able to know the verse, quote the verse, at least know where it is so that you can find it. Many times in open book exams in the university, people think or the students think, oh, it is open book exam, it is easy. So if a question comes, you need to know which page to look at to find the answer. You cannot go and read every page in the exam. So at least you need to know. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is open book. You are discussing Bhagavad Gita with someone. Everybody should have a book in front of him. Okay. And if possible, turn on your cameras. It gives a more personal feeling for those who have not. So which verse? 13 point? Yes, 19. So my wife, who is sitting here with me, is saying 19. So 13.19. You can all look at 13.19. And what is Lord Krishna saying there in 13.19? Iti kshetram tatha jnanam jyeyam chauktam samasataha mad bhakta etad vigyaya mad bhavaya upapadyate. So the third line is very important. Mad bhakta etad vigyaya. Not just gyaya, not just he can know this, but he can vigyaya means he can know this and realize it as well. Know it in theory and practice. So know it fully. There is another verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 18.55. So if you have Bhagavad Gita in front of you, you can open up 18.55. Maybe I can also open up over here and show you. Chapter 18, verse number 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yascha ashmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. So the first line or the first 2 lines, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Bhakta can janati, to know me. Bhakta can know me in what way? Yavan, yes, as I am, tattvataha, at the essential level, the essence, the core of who I am. Mam, janati or abhijanati. Who can janati? Bhaktya. A bhakta can know me. So same thing Lord Krishna says in the 19th verse of this chapter as well. So at that time, 4 things have been discussed. kshetra-kshetrajna, jnana and jyeya. So that's why Lord Krishna is saying iti kshetram tatha jnanam jyeyam chauktam samasatah bhakta etad vigyaya. And he also comes to me mad bhavaya upapadyate. So please remember this. So by bhakti one can understand these topics, these 6 topics. Okay, so why did we come here? It is because of 13.24 and or 24 to 26, this small section I'm talking about. And it is covering how to understand this knowledge and the benefit of understanding it. Now there is a small point which we will cover as well by Bhakti Yoga. And under the guidance of a guru. So under the guidance of a guru is also going to come in this section. Plus, how can one understand it? By bhakti, this is the best process. But there are some other processes as well. And what are those other processes? Karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga. Those are also processes for understanding this knowledge. Karma yoga was covered in detail in chapters 3, partially in 4, jnana yoga partially in 4, partially in 5, and dhyana yoga in chapter 6. So before the bhakti section, which started from chapter 7, these other processes had already been discussed. And these will be referred here in this section. Which section? 24 to 26. So I'm just explaining you how this section is being organized. So for the serious student of Bhagavad Gita, all this knowledge or all this understanding provides a very good and deep opportunity to relish and enjoy reading Bhagavad Gita and apply it in their lives. So with this background, let us talk about 13.24 now. So remember how to understand this knowledge and the benefit. That is the point. Ya evam, so 13.24. Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvatha vartamano api nasa bhuyo abhijayate. So what is the translation? Ya evam veti purusham. So one who understands all this knowledge. Now all 6 topics have been covered. And what are those topics? Purusha, the extra topics that have been covered, Purusha and Prakriti, that have been covered now in this section. In the previous section, 13.19, Lord talked about 4 topics by then. Now, all 6 topics by 13.23, all 6 topics have been covered. So that is why the additional 2 topics are previous 4 plus Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti. So these topics have been covered. That's why Purusha and Prakriti is being mentioned specifically here. Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha. So along with all the previous topics, saha, along with those, Purusha and Prakriti and Guna, the 3 gunas. Guna is referring to the material modes, the 3 material modes, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So that is part of Prakriti. So all these, one who understands Veti, Ya evam Veti, one who understands this. What is the benefit? The benefit is Sarvatha Vartamano api na sa bhuyo abhijayate. That na sa bhuyo abhijayate means that he never comes back. He never takes birth again, which means he gets liberated. And the third line is extremely important. So that is a very big emphasis of this 13.24. So we always write it as 13.24c. The third line is very important. So please pay attention on this third line. What is the third line? I just want to make sure everybody is paying attention. Can somebody repeat the third line of this verse?
Sarvatha vartamano api.
Very nice. Sarvatha vartamano api. What it means is that, what is the meaning of vartamana?
Present.
Present. Your present condition or your present situation. Sarvatha vartamano api, which means that in whatever he may situation, sarvatha, any kind of situation he may be in at this point. Okay, so that is very important. Lord Krishna is saying that your present situation does not matter. Your overall focus on bhakti yoga is what matters. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and previous acharyas described that even if you may be having a disease, or you are old, or you are, in sleeping, or any other situation, if you have performed bhakti yoga, whatever may be your present condition, you will still go back to Bhagawan. Na sa bhuyo abhijayate. You will never take birth again if you have understood this knowledge nicely in the past. So that is what is being mentioned here. Sarvatha vartamano api is very, very uplifting. It is a very, very confidence building verse, or sarvatha, in whatever situation you may be present, that does not matter. Okay, so this is very important from that standpoint. Na sa bhuyo abhijayate. So the translation given by Srila Prabhupada is, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature that is the whole philosophy, the nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes, is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again. That is, na sa bhuyo abhijayate, regardless of his present position. The last phrase, sarvatha vartamano api, regardless of his present position. So please understand this nicely and make use of this. Let it build your confidence in Bhagavan Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, that if you have understood it, you are on the right track. Don't worry. Many people say, oh, I understood it, but I forget. I also forget so many times, but that is not important. Your remembrance, how sharp your memory is not a qualification for liberation. Your sincere effort is what is the qualification. So if you put in a sincere effort, and if you understand it at that moment nicely, now it does not mean that you just read it. Oh, I read it. I understand it at a superficial level. No, to understand it deeply at the level of essence. And what it means, understanding at a level of essence, is to practice bhakti yoga. And essentially, what is bhakti yoga? It is not about chanting big verses, or chanting, remembering the whole, memorizing Bhagavad Gita, or doing various elaborate procedures. It is very simple. It is to remember Krishna, to depend on Krishna all the time, in whatever situation you may be. And take his name. Taking his name is a form of dependence on Krishna. That I have nobody else in my life, only you, Krishna. You are my only supporter. I am yours. Please support me. That is bhakti. There is nothing more to bhakti. And if your body allows, if your situation allows, you can do more things. Okay, so you do not have to remember, you do not have to memorize, you do not have to do anything. That essence of understanding is takes the form, is manifested as your consciousness, as your dependence on Krishna for your entire support. So that is what is meant by this verse. Okay, and then one gets liberation, not at a superficial level, but at a deeper level. Okay, so we will go to 13.25. Okay, So the understanding is one who understands, or what is written here is that Veti in the previous verse, one who knows this or understands this, the answer is already given in 13.19 through the process of bhakti. Now in 13.25, Lord Krishna says there are other processes as well. And he will mention those three processes: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, it is also known as Sankhya, and Dhyana. So let us see 13.25. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sankhyena yogena karma yogena chapare. So you can see here all the processes have been mentioned. So the translation is, so dhyayena atmani pashyanti. So by dhyana yoga. Then in the third line, anye sankhyena yogena. So sankhya yoga is mentioned. And in the last line, karma yogena cha apare or cha pare. So the three processes have been mentioned here, and there is anye. Anye means other people. There are others, those who are not following the path of bhakti. Now, bhakti is the recommended path for Kali Yuga, especially because it is easiest, fastest, quickest, and best. So, but there are other processes which are valid also. All this we covered in our previous discussions of chapters 2 through 6. So the translation is, some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, that is jnana, and still others through working without fruitive desires. This is nishkama karma yoga. So here karma yoga is nishkama. I think I mentioned it above also. So karma yoga I mentioned. Did I mention nishkama? Probably not, but it means nishkama karma yoga. So this is nishkama karma yoga. Only nishkama karma yoga is devoid of any material sense gratification. Sakama karma yoga, there is still, to the extent you are doing sakama, there is material motivation. It is haituki. The 100% spiritual process has to be ahaituki. There has to be no material desires in performing the spiritual process. So all these three, nishkama karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga, have no material desires for any kind of material gratification attached to it. Then through a long process of following this, you can also attain liberation. So that is what is being said here. So we read the translation as well. So that is 13.25. Now we will go into 13.26. 13.26 is another very important verse. What is the importance of 13.26? The importance of 13.26. So just to give you an idea, in 13.19, Bhakti has been established as the process, Bhakti Yoga. Then 13.25, the other three, anyena, other three processes have been described. 13.26, Lord Krishna is describing how one gets to the stage of bhakti. So that is what is coming up in 13.26, and therefore 13.26 is an important verse. How one gets to that stage of bhakti. So this is not exactly in the verse, but there is an indication of it in the verse. So let us first read the verse. Anye tva evam ajanantah shrutva anyebhya upasate te api cha atitarantyeva mrityum shruti parayanah. So, anye tva evam ajanantah. So, some others who do not even know bhakti. So, previously what has been discussed, once again, I'm going really slowly so that you can understand nicely. These have been already discussed, isn't it? Because they are previous verses, 19, 25, they all come before 26. So they have been discussed, these processes, isn't it? Now, what if one does not even have bhakti? How does bhakti start? I can summarize this as, how does bhakti begin? Where does it start? If I am completely materialistic, I have no idea about bhakti, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, anything. How does it start?
Someone introduces it to you.
Very nice. Exactly right. Sham Leela Mataji, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Prabhuji, I was going to say the same thing. Ke for most people, it starts आप नाम सुनते हो या आप कोई कहानी सुनते हो भगवान की, and आपकी रुचि बढ़ती है, and then you sort of take it from there.
Very nice. So, by the way, Sham Leela Mataji is Saloni Mataji, who used to join earlier. In this weekend that just went by, she got Diksha from her guru, and she was, as a byproduct of that, she was given a spiritual name, Shyam Leela Devi Dasi. So thank you, Mataji, for your sincere interest in Bhagavad Gita and for sharing your realizations with us.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for all your effort in teaching us Bhagavad Gita every week.
Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I am passing it forward, that's all. And you all should pass it forward too, when the time comes, when you feel that you can. Okay. So how does bhakti begin? So very nice. Makarand Prabhu and Shyam Leela Mataji mentioned that. So let us understand this very carefully. So let us first understand the verse. Anye tva evam ajanantah. That there are others who do not know anything about any spiritual process. Ajanantah. Who do not know anything. There are such people also. Anye. How do they get? Shrutva anyebhya upasate. So they hear Shrutva anyebhya from others. And then they begin their spiritual upasana. Upasate means their spiritual journey of worship or any other means. So by hearing from that anyebhya, from someone, that person anyebhya is a pure devotee, a bhakta. So they hear something, some word in some past life also. It is possible, not only in this life, maybe in the past life. Bhakti is completely spiritual. It stays with the soul. All your baggage of karma and other things, sinful reactions, pious reactions, they all stay in the subtle body. Bhakti stays with the soul. So any interaction, even a moment, a fraction of a second's interaction you may have with a pure devotee at any point in your journey in this material world, this life or past life, it stays with you. And then there is, so, te api cha ati taranti eva. So what Lord Krishna is saying in the third line, they also ati taranti. Taranti means they cross over. Tair jate hain. They cross over this material world. Mrityum shruti parayana, this ocean of birth and death. Mrityum shruti parayana, just by hearing from a pure devotee. So that is the meaning of this verse, the translation given by Srila Prabhupada. Let's read that. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, which means any of the four processes, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, or bhakti yoga. Not conversant at all. Begin to worship the Supreme, upasate, upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities. So that's what Srila Prabhupada, we can understand from this translation, anyebhyah and shruti parayanaha is from authority or from a pure devotee. Authority doesn't mean a professor at Stanford University who is teaching Bhagavad Gita. That is not authority. Authority is somebody who is living the Bhagavad Gita in his entire life. That is a pure devotee. So, because of their tendency to hear from such authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So I hope that is clear, that at some point one comes in contact with a pure devotee. So here is sort of the sequence that I want to mention. Okay, the first, and for those who are doing Bhakti Shastri, etc., we will cover this in Nectar of Devotion. We read 4 books in that. So Nectar of Devotion covers this topic in more detail. But what we will understand there is Bhakti comes only from a Bhakta. Okay? Or comes, or we can say it is inspired in our heart. Bhakti is sitting dormant in our heart, but it is ignited, or it is awakened. Another word we can say is awakened. Okay? Only by a Bhakta. There is no other way. So some point, somewhere, somebody may have told you about God, about Bhagavad Gita, about Krishna, about Rama, or anything that stays with you. Then, so the first step is some prior contact with a pure devotee. And this contact need not be at a physical level, what is known as a vapu level, physical. It can also be at a vani level, which means sound. And sound can also mean written word. So it does not have to mean that there has to be a physical contact. You shake hands or you meet face to face, as we say today, in person. It can be through vani also. Vani means sound. So some prior contact with a pure devotee. Then in some point in the future, later on, a desire develops. A desire develops to know God. To know God or Krishna or Krishna's words, which is Bhagavad Gita, we can say, etc. A desire develops. Okay? And this desire usually develops out of Now in 7th chapter, 16th verse, Lord Krishna says there are 4 types of people that come to him. Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani. Okay. Usually it arises out of, I can summarize it as disappointment with material world. And that is what Artha and Artharthi represent. Some kind of disappointment. Then Jigyasu and Jnani are little higher levels. So a desire develops to know about God. And now when you combine these two, a desire develops, and then you remember, I came in. Now you may not remember, your soul will remember. Okay, so it is not that you have to have a memory about it. You pick up, you read. I will just take an example. It could be Bhagavatam, it could be the Bible, it could be any other bona fide scripture. Okay, we'll just say read Bhagavad Gita with faith. Okay, and which Bhagavad Gita will you read? Read Bhagavad Gita, one picks up Bhagavad Gita, read or hear Now, in this verse, there is the focus on shruti, on hearing. It says shruti parayanaha, or shrutva anyebhya upasate, by hearing with faith from an authority. So, what do? You seek out such a person. So you may go and find out, I really want to understand who is God. That desire is there, plus that inspiration, that awakening has happened in the past by a pure devotee, by our contact. And so when that desire fructifies, or when that desire develops, you go and seek out. Let me try to understand. And that is when the process of bhakti begins. So this person gives you what is known as the jnana, bhakti jnana, or we call it as bhakti lata beej. The seed of bhakti is given. And then when you make further progress, you give water to the seed, you give it sunlight, which means by the process of hearing and chanting, serious reception of that knowledge of bhakti jnana. When one seriously receives it and applies it in one's life, then the fructification happens. Fructification of the beej, the bhakti beej occurs. And then at the final stage, there is liberation or Vaikuntha. Okay. So this is how the process or our spiritual journey unfolds. Okay, I'm looking at my notes and seeing what else I should cover. Yeah. Okay. So once again, in this verse, Lord Krishna is talking about the importance of hearing or receiving this spiritual knowledge from a pure devotee. And in our life, we have found such a pure devotee, and that is Srila Prabhupada. And of course, all the previous acharyas, plus all the previous acharyas in the Guru Parampara. So Srila Prabhupada has given us Bhagavad Gita as it is, and previous acharyas have also written commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Sri Baladev Vidya Bhushan, and so on. And through their writings, we can understand Bhagavad Gita, and we can apply it in our life, and we can move towards our journey of liberation or Vaikuntha. Okay, so that is 13.26. 13.26 is very, very strongly emphasizing the point of importance of receiving Bhagavad Gita, this knowledge, through a pure devotee and through the process of hearing. So the main emphasis of 13.26 is, what is the answer to this question? How does one get bhakti? By pure devotee, or from pure devotee, I should say, plus our reception of it. Pure devotees are there. They are out there. We have to receive it as well. We have to accept it. And the process is hearing. Okay, and please keep in mind, hearing does not only mean hearing from our what you call sound organs. It could also mean reading from our eyes. So don't just stick to the word, don't take it literally. Shrutva means hearing. It could also mean hearing and the spoken word and the written word. Okay. So that completes this section. So if you remember, we started with this section 13.24 to 26. How to understand this knowledge. So we answered or Lord Krishna answered the question. It is to be understood primarily by bhakti. But there are other processes also where it could be understood, jnana, dhyana, karma yoga, etc. The benefit of understanding it, and by the way, how to understand it? Through bhakti and taking shelter of a authority, of a authorized person who can give us the Bhagavad Gita or the spiritual knowledge correctly. The correct spiritual knowledge he should give, not some false interpretation. So that is how we should understand, and the benefit of understanding is liberation. That is present in all these verses. One can ati taranti mrityu samsaram, can go beyond the life cycle of birth and death. So that is that section. Now comes the last section of 13th chapter, the final section. And this final section goes from 13.27 to the end, 13.35. That is 8 verses. Okay, I think it is 8, right? Or 9, probably 9. Yeah, 9 verses. Okay, so let us quickly discuss this final section. This will go quicker. So the section is Lord Krishna is expanding on the meaning of this chapter. So Lord Krishna expands on the meaning of chapter 13. Okay, that is this final section. So even though chapter 13 talks about 6 items, if some of you may remember, if we were to pick one primary focus of chapter 13, what would it be? We discussed this when we began chapter 13. If anybody remembers, you can say.
Purusha and Prakriti.
Okay, Purusha and Prakriti. Anybody else?
Kshetram.
Kshetram, okay. Body, fine. So let us list down the 6 items. kshetra-kshetrajna. Then there is jnana-jyeya and purusa-prakriti and purusha. Agreed? Okay. The focus of 13th chapter, if we have to pick one focus of 13th chapter, it is at a high level. If you see these 3 things, these are material. And this is spiritual. Okay. And within the spiritual, so obviously whatever is the focus of 13th chapter cannot be material. It is spiritual, that we can all guess. Spiritual knowledge is higher than material knowledge. Who is the kshetra-jnaya? There are 2 kshetra-jnayas.
Soul and Supersoul.
Yes, jiva and Paramatma, soul and Supersoul. There are 2 purushas as well, also soul and Supersoul. And there are 2 jnaya as well. The primary jnaya is Paramatma and also the jivatma. Among the jnayas, one of them was covered very quickly in 1 verse. And then there was the discussion of Paramatma. 13.13. The jiva as the jnana was covered, and then 14 to 18 Paramatma was covered as the jnana. So it is jiva and jivatma and Paramatma. And jivatma has been covered in detail in chapter 2. So Paramatma is the main focus of chapter 13. Do you follow how we came to this understanding? Of course, jivatma, the spirit soul, and the super soul, Paramatma, are both very important. But since jivatma topic has been covered in chapter 2, the new exclusive knowledge that we get from chapter 13 is that about Paramatma. Okay? So that is the main focus of chapter 13. And you will see in these verses, why am I mentioning this? 13.27 to 13.35, Lord Krishna is going to give a deeper meaning. Didn't I say that? Lord Krishna expands on the meaning of chapter 13. Correct?
Jnana-chakshusha.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, that's correct. So through the chakshu, through the eyes of 13th chapter, Lord Krishna will take us into an expanded understanding of Paramatma. There will be aspects of Jivatma as well, but primarily it will be the aspects of who is Paramatma. That was the content of this final section, 27 to 35. Okay, followed everybody? So that is the section. Okay, 27 to 35. So number 27. So I am debating, it is 6:50. Yeah, we can, and how many? 9 verses. Okay, I will just go with the English for some of the verses. Some of the verses we will do Sanskrit. Okay, so 27. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Okay. So the main point is, what is the main point? That everything in creation is a combination of 2 things. Okay. One is Prakriti, and the second is Purusha. And Purusha is Jiva and Paramatma. So everything in this whole creation, what is known as the yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavara jangamam kshetra-kshetrajna samyogat tadvidhi bharatarshubha. So everything is a combination of kshetra and kshetrajna, or matter and spirit. That's what you can understand. Matter and spirit. Okay, so that is 13.27. So that is the introduction. Then 13.28. 13.28 is going to say that Supersoul, the Paramatma, is present in all living entities. That is the emphasis of 13.28. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashayatsva avinashatsvam pashyatita sa pashyati. So the translation is, one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. So Supersoul is present in all bodies. And number 2, he is indestructible. Destructible. Okay. So that is the emphasis of number 28. The Supersoul is present in all living entities. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu. Tishthantam parameshwaram. So that Supersoul is, now Srila Prabhupada is obviously adding that the Supersoul accompanying this individual soul, but that accompanying the individual soul is not exactly present in this verse, but it is obviously the correct understanding from all the previous verses. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us the full integrated understanding, but specifically in this verse, what is being mentioned is Paramatma is present in all living entities and Paramatma is indestructible. Then number 29. What is 29 saying? That not only in every living entity, but Paramatma is present everywhere. Everywhere. So here you will see that what is mentioned is Samam Pashyanhi Sarvatra. So not in the previous verse, it was Sarveshu Bhuteshu. Sarveshu Bhuteshu means all living entities. Bhuta means living entity. So Sarveshu Bhuteshu, whereas here it is Sarvatra, which means everywhere. Okay. So the translation is by Srila Prabhupada is one who sees the Supersoul equally present everywhere, and then he is adding in every living entity, because that is mentioned in just the previous verse. Sarveshu Bhuteshu. Everywhere, comma, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. So the Supersoul is present everywhere. There is a very beautiful verse in the Brahma Samhita, which very clearly shows that the Supersoul is present in every atom. So not only within every living entity, but even within atoms in the non-living things. So I think that is Brahma Samhita 35th verse. So let's go there, and I want to show you that verse. It's a very beautiful verse. Library, last book, Brahma Samhita. 35th verse, I think. Let me see, or 38th. We'll see. Yes, 35th verse. Yes. So here we will see Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantara Stham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So here it is mentioned, we'll just read this line. All the universes exist in him, that is one thing, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So in the whole universe, Anda Antara Stha Paramanu. Paramanu means in every atom. Cha ya antarastham. Cha ya antarastham. And he is present inside every Paramanu. Stham means, here you can see stham means he is present inside. Stham. Cha ya antara. Antara. Antara of what? Of every Paramanu. Of every atom he is present. And that's what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is translating. He is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe. Paramatma is. Jivatma is not. Jivatma is individual. It is present. Our Jivatma. I am the Jivatma and I have a body. My Jivatma is not present everywhere else, but Paramatma is present everywhere. Okay. So what happened? So not only is the Paramatma within every living entity, but Paramatma is present everywhere, sarvatra. So that is being mentioned in 13.29. That is one of the main emphasis of 13.29. Okay. Now 13.30 to 13.33. These 4 verses are talking about the unentangled nature. Unentangled nature of the spirit soul. Both Jivatma and Paramatma. But main focus is again Paramatma, but it is talking about the unentangled nature of the spirit soul. So 30th verse. Yeah, we can read the Sanskrit here. Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah yah pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sa pashyati. So the translation is that one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, by Prakriti, body which is made of Prakriti, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So the main point is that soul is the non-doer. So what does soul do? What is the purpose of the soul? Of course, the presence of the soul gives consciousness, gives life to a body. Body is just matter, it's a machine. So yes, the presence of soul enlivens the body, it gives consciousness. Dhriti and chetana, we covered those things, consciousness and conviction. But what does the soul do? There is one thing that the soul does. I mean, again, we are using the English language. So on one hand, we are saying soul is the non-doer, and on the other hand, I'm asking you what it does. Okay, but you will
connects Almighty.
Hold on.
It is the connection between super soul and
yeah, but there is one thing
soul.
that it does. What it does is that it desires. It has desires. Okay. And the Paramatma, what is his role? Anumanta, if you remember. Upadrishta Anumanta cha. So Paramatma permits the desire or not. So the child can say, Daddy, I need $20 to go eat some sweets. The father can say yes or no, depending on whether the child has finished his homework or not, or whether he has been a good boy. Then father will say, okay, here, you get your pocket money, $20. So if he has earned it, the Anumanta, the permitter, will allow the desirer to proceed forward. He could also deny. That's the purpose of Anumanta. Otherwise, what's the point of Anumanta or permitter if he cannot deny? If he's always saying yes, then he's just a, like a rubber stamp. So the purpose of the soul is to desire. Now, what happens is that, and when the Lord permits, then the body carries out the action. When the Lord allows or permits, then the body or the Prakriti carries out the actual action. The soul is the non-doer in that sense. The soul does not do anything. He expresses desire and then he enjoys. Whatever the action that happens, he enjoys out of that. Now, these desires, the soul, the innate nature of the soul is always pure. It is Satchidananda. So the desires coming from the soul are always pure spiritual desires. Always, because the soul is always pure and it is uncontaminated. The soul never mixes with matter. If anybody tells you soul mixes with matter, that is wrong. What happens is that the soul gets covered with matter. It doesn't mix, but it gets covered by matter. Okay. Yes, I see one hand is raised. I will come to that in just a second. I want to finish this thought. So the soul gets covered by matter. And one of the things within matter, what we call as matter, is the mind. We have read that, isn't it? Bhumir apa anala vayu kha man buddhir evacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtadha 7.4. So mana, buddhi and ahankar are the three subtle elements of matter, of prakriti, bhinna prakriti. So mind is one of them. And the mind gets conditioned by the soul, by gunas. So mind gets conditioned by the influence of gunas. Okay, so if it is sattva guna, then the mind may have some good desires. But if it is tamo guna or rajo guna, mind may have ulterior desires of sense gratification or violence or harming others and so on. So the mind covers the soul, and then the mind has desires of its own. Okay. It's like you sat, I give this example, you sat in a taxi. You tell the taxi fellow, I want to go to the airport. But the taxi fellow, if he doesn't listen to you, but instead it takes you to a bar, okay, and he overpowers you and takes you somewhere else, then that is like the taxi is, that taxi driver has become corrupt. So that is the mind, a corrupt mind. A pure mind will always agree to the desires of the soul. It will not impose its desires on the soul. But a corrupt mind imposes its desires on the soul. So we will see that here. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, which by the way includes the mind, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So the actual doer is the body, or the gunas or prakriti is the doer, but not the soul. Okay, so that is the unentangled nature of the soul. The soul is never entangled with matter. Okay, let's take questions at this point. So some devotees have raised their hands, but please remember this whole section is about unentangled nature of the spirit, which includes both jiva-atma and Paramatma. In the next verse, Lord Krishna will say even Paramatma is not the doer. Not only the jiva-atma, but even the Paramatma is not the doer. All right, Karti Prabhu, you have a question?
The desire is coming from the mind, not from the atma.
The conditioned mind, yes, the desire, if the mind is completely purified, then it transmits the desire of the soul. It is like a transparent medium. It does not impose its own demands.
So even our worldly desires are coming from the atma?
No.
No.
Worldly desires are coming from the mind.
Yeah,
the Atma is always pure. Atma will not say, I want to kill the other person and enjoy his wealth.
But you said that desire is coming from soul.
No, I didn't say desires. I said the thing that the soul can do is to desire. But the soul itself can only generate pure spiritual desires. I said that. I did not say that the soul generates sinful or sense gratification desires. Those desires come from the mind when the soul has become covered by matter.
I see.
Is that clear?
So the desires can be two varieties. One, a good desire, spiritual desires, and the material desires.
Yes.
So material desires from the mind, and the
spiritual desires are from the soul.
Okay.
And when those spiritual desires when the mind becomes purified, we have studied this in chapter 6.
Yeah.
When the mind becomes completely purified, then the soul's desires are carried out. The mind doesn't stand in the way. The soul says, I want to do bhakti. Mind doesn't say, Arey, what will you do with bhakti? Let's turn on Netflix channel and watch some movies.
Okay.
So mind doesn't impose its desires on the soul. We are so conditioned, we don't even realize that soul has a desire. Okay, that is our situation. Every desire that we are, again, if you are like somebody like me who is very conditioned, every desire that is coming is from the mind. Let's watch a movie. Let's, why should we do our kirtana or chanting or japa? Oh, it is so hard. Or let's just do it quickly for namesake. And, when other people are watching, oh, I'm doing such nice, for my man, abhiman, for my pride, I could do that. All those things could be there. Everything, all those things which may appear to be spiritual are also coming from mind. If it is a corrupted mind which has been conditioned for some kind of sense gratification, to receive praise, acknowledgement, other things.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that clarify?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
When the mind is completely purified, then we can get a sense of what is the spiritual desire. And if you want to get a sense of what is spiritual desire, you can read or you can try to see the lives of pure devotees. See the lives of pure devotees. They have completely spiritual desires. And in the case of pure devotees, it is not that the world is giving them a red carpet. The world is giving them all reasons to deviate from the spiritual desire. Srila Prabhupada, for example, was staying happily in Vrindavan. Okay, he even had a room in the, what you can say, in modern terms, you can say he had a deluxe room in a deluxe penthouse apartment in downtown. That's where he was living. In his terms, it is in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, which is the heart of Vrindavan downtown. Right inside the temple, he had a room, a very premium room. And devotees would give him and sometimes give prasad, or he was very happy. But his Gurudev, so many years ago, told him, you must go to the West and spread this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. He left all his comfort. Now, again, this comfort is not like bodily comfort. He did not have like a nice mattress and pillows and, chappan bhog. There were still hardships, but at least he was in Vrindavan, the best place where he could be. And he left all that and came to the West, where he struggled initially quite a lot. But all of those desires were spiritual. There were obstacles, and he didn't give in. That lady, what is the name of the lady who sponsored the ticket? Mother Sindhya. Sindhya was the last name. Yeah. So one very kind Mataji sponsored the ticket of Srila Prabhupada first time on the Jaladuta
Mrs.
ship.
Desai.
No, Desai. Okay, somebody can.
No, Sindhya only.
Sindhya, yeah. My wife can look. Anyway, so Srila Prabhupada said, no, just give me one-way ticket. Okay. She said, no, I am definitely I'm not going to give you a ticket. If you insist on one-way ticket, I'm not giving you. I will give you only a two-way ticket. At least you will have a ticket to come back, because after you go, you don't know how much trouble you will face there. So if you face any trouble, at least I have a return ticket, I can come back. So she gave him a return ticket. That return ticket was never used, the other half, because he struggled and he got so much success by Krishna's support.
Sindhya was the name of the company and her name was Sumati Murarji.
Yeah, Sumati Murarji Mataji. Sindhya was the the water liner or the steam liner company. So
Shipping company, yeah.
The shipping company. It was a cargo ship. Okay. So that is the spiritual
Prabhu,
desire.
Yeah, that's clear. Can I ask one more question?
Okay.
Now we said that Paramatma is in every living entities.
Mm-hmm.
So even in animals and insects also there are you find Paramatma.
Absolutely.
So in our body there is a Paramatma, and there are a lot of germs and bacteria and all other things are there.
Mm-hmm.
So each bacteria will be having a atma and Paramatma.
Yes. So they are just co-travelers in our body. That is fine. It's like you are the head of the house, but there are other family members and they have their own desires. So
But
what is the problem in
so
that? What is the contradiction, or why is it a problem?
No. So I'm thinking. So there is a lot of jiva and Paramatma in my body.
Yes, your body is a home. It is giving shelter to all those bacteria and everything. So many of them are good bacteria. Otherwise, you will not be able to digest your food.
Yeah. Even a good or bad bacteria will have a
Yes.
atma and
Yes.
jiva and Paramatma.
Yeah, there's no problem with yes. Answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We will go to Indra Gupta, madam. Indra Gupta Mataji.
Maybe it is a silly question, I don't know. My doubt is how mind gets corrupted. I mean, who is responsible for that?
Yes, no, that's not a silly question at all. That's a very important question. Very, very important question. So slowly, by the desire for sense gratification, the mind develops a taste. Okay. So there is some desire for some very simple sense gratification. You can, if you want an analogy, okay, how does a criminal or a big, what you can say, mafia leader, just imagine some movie you might have watched, okay, The Godfather or something, some mafia movie. He is the top mafia boss, right? And in his life, he has committed hundreds of murders. Does he immediately become that, or it starts with one small petty crime? Usually.
It doesn't come immediately.
Yes, it starts very small. Some petty crime, some shoplifting, something happens.
For the first time, how it gets.
Yeah, so the jivas are in the material world from eternity. They are anadi. From time immemorial, they are in the material world because of their desire. That small desire is there to enjoy separately from Krishna. How that desire developed just to enjoy separately from Krishna, not in company of Krishna, that I do not have an answer. But that the moment that desire is there, that is the starting point to enjoy separately from Krishna. That I want to be the enjoyer. I do not want to accept or be the enjoyer while being under the shelter of Bhagawan. Why I have to take shelter of Bhagawan to enjoy? I want to be the shelter giver, not the shelter taker. Now, how that desire develops in the heart of the jiva, that is, coming from time immemorial. There is no answer to that. But then that jiva's fall begins. It becomes a small sense gratification, then bigger, then bigger, then bigger, and he commits bigger and bigger and bigger sinful activities and keeps going down in the cycle of birth and death. Okay. All right. Any other question?
I have.
Yes. Karthi Prabhu, you can lower your hand if you do not have another question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this Paramatma is present in every atom.
Yes.
My mind thought of this, that energy was found recently by that nuclear fusion. So that I felt it came to my mind.
Okay. Well, nuclear
That
fusion was
that
not recent.
energy of,
Okay, go ahead, finish.
that atoms nuclear. So I'm sure Paramatma will help in that success.
Okay, okay, I'm not sure how to what is the connection between fusion and Paramatma. Of
It's
course,
just
there is
atom, because that atom energy, that Paramatma's energy is in every atom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't. Yeah, but how it connects specifically to fusion? Why not to fission? Okay. Even uranium is an atom, and in fusion you have the smaller atoms like hydrogen that fuse into helium or something. So why not uranium? Why not hydrogen? I mean, we can go down this rabbit hole, but there is. We don't want to speculate. And anyway, fusion was not discovered recently. Fusion had been discovered 50, 60, 70 years ago. What was discovered recently was engineering process to get more energy out of fusion than is needed to start or to maintain a fusion reaction. So at an engineering level, fusion so far was a net loss of energy. Now what they have done is converted into a net gain of energy, and therefore you can have a practical application of fusion for generation of energy. You could now have fusion reactors, not fission reactors. Fission reactors generate a lot of waste products, harmful waste products. Fusion reactions do not generate nuclear waste. And that is the big advantage. You can have clean nuclear energy through fusion, not through fission. But anyway, that is a side note on modern nuclear engineering. Okay, great. Anything else? All right, let's continue. So I stopped sharing the screen. Let me share again. Okay. So what we covered in 13.30 is that the soul is the non-doer. Okay, 13.31. What 13.31 isn't it 31? Yes, 31 is next. So the main emphasis is that this jnana of purusha leads to Brahman realization. Okay. And I will make another very important point out of this, which is implied. It is not directly in this verse, but it is implied. So please listen carefully. Jnana of purusha. So it is mentioned here that by knowing about purusa-prakriti, kshetra-kshetrajna, jnana-jyeya, what is mentioned here is that one gets Brahman realization. Okay, let us read this verse. Or should we read it? Let's just read the Sanskrit. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So the point is that this jnana leads to Brahman realization. That is the essence of 13.31. Okay. But what did we say? What is the best process to attain this jnana? We said it in the beginning of the class. What is the process?
Bhakti.
Bhakti, very nice. So bhakti is the process, the best process for attaining this knowledge. Okay. And by bhakti, what do you get? What do you attain by bhakti?
jnana-jyeya.
Okay, but ultimately, what do you attain by bhakti?
Liberation?
Realization.
Yes, you attain Bhagawan.
Realization.
You attain Bhagawan through bhakti. Okay, you go and live with Bhagawan. So the point is, by bhakti, you are getting a lot more than what jnana is giving. And because by bhakti, you can also attain this knowledge. In Bhagawan realization, Brahman realization is included. So if you connect all the verses of chapter 13, what is mentioned, please listen again carefully. A bhakta can truly understand this knowledge given in chapter 13. That is what Lord Krishna said in the 19th verse. Through bhakti, a bhakta can understand this knowledge. We also know through bhakti, one attains Bhagawan. What is mentioned in this verse 31 is that one who attains this knowledge gets Brahman realization. So if you put all these statements together, it means that through bhakti, not only you get Bhagawan realization, but Brahman realization also comes as a byproduct. Is that clear? This is the conclusion, or one of the conclusions that can be drawn from this verse. It's an important conclusion. If you go back to our previous discussions, that realization of absolute truth comes in 3 levels: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagawan. Brahman is the lowest level of the realization. Then there is Paramatma and Bhagawan. Brahman realization is obtained through, or is obtainable through, jnana. Paramatma realization through dhyana, and Bhagawan realization through bhakti. But as you increase in the Bhagawan realization, the previous ones are also included. Okay, so that is one of the important conclusions from this verse. Okay, so jnana of Purusha leads to Brahman realization. That is 31. Okay, 32. 13.32. So let's read this verse. Anaditvan nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayaha sharirastho api konteya na karoti na lipyate. So what does it mean? Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. So here Paramatma is being referred to as the soul. If you see here, Anaditvan nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayaha. So Paramatma is the word in the verse. So what is Paramatma? It is Anadi, it is Nirguna. Just like the jiva. Jiva is also Anadi. Anadi means no beginning. And Nirguna. Nirguna means no material constitution. The jiva is completely spiritual. It has no element, or it is not made of anything material. It is not of material constituents. And it is avyaya. It is eternal. It is this Paramatma. So therefore the point that is being made, one of the points is Paramatma has the same spiritual qualities as Jivatma. The 3 qualities that are mentioned are Anadi, Nirguna, and Avyaya. Avyayam. Okay. So that is one point that is being made, that Paramatma has the same qualities. The second point that is being made is Sharirastho api konteya. Paramatma is in our Sharira. is residing in our body. Okay. And the third point is that this Paramatma does nothing, na karoti, or we can say is the non-doer. And the fourth thing, it is not entangled with the body. So all these are true even for the jivatma. They are all the same for the Paramatma as well. So even the Paramatma is the non-doer, na karoti. Paramatma is anadi and nirguna and avyaya. Paramatma is also in our body, and it is not entangled with the body. So what it means, this whole thing means, is that jiva and Paramatma are same in quality. Okay, but from other verses we realize that jivatma is present only in our body, or the individual jivatma, but Paramatma is present in every body, or in every living entity, and in every atom. So that is the difference between Paramatma and Jivatma in quantity. So this is quality. Quality, it is same, but quantity is different. Okay. Okay, so that is number 32. And finally, there is an analogy in number 33. So remember, this section is about what? Is about the unentangled nature of Jiva and Paramatma. That was the sort of the subsection, isn't it? We said here, the unentangled nature of the spirit, Paramatma or Jivatma, both, right? That was this whole section, 30 to 33. So finally in 33, there is an analogy. What is the analogy? I will come to your question, Shamlila Mataji. One sec. Let me finish 33. So the analogy is, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, though it is all pervading. So it is the analogy of Paramatma. The Paramatma is all pervading, just like the sky is all pervading, but it does not mix with anything. The sky does not get contaminated. Even if there is a dust storm, the dust is separate and the sky is separate. Okay, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though it is situated in that body. So that is the understanding. So it is an analogy that is given, analogy of sky and dust in the sky. The sky still remains pure. You cannot say that the sky has become contaminated. The sky remains sky, the dust is dust, and the sky is all pervading. Okay, Shamlila Mataji.
Prabhuji, it's actually about 31, verse number 31. I had a doubt. So if bhakti karke, if we can attain Bhagawan and go to Krishna Lok or Vaikuntha or one of those planets, and suppose my spiritual identity there is that of a I don't know, blade of grass, then what would I do with the Brahman conception? Like, why would I need that knowledge? Why is Bhagawan giving me that?
There is why is Bhagawan giving? You have that knowledge. You may not. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, having knowledge or having a proper, only having a knowledge when you need to use it may not be the case. You know many things that you don't need to use. A blade of grass could become, the Lord could use the blade of grass, as you say in your example, in his service by sending that blade of grass as a acharya in the material world to spread Lord Krishna's message, to spread Krishna consciousness. So the blade of grass obviously will, is endowed with all the knowledge of Brahman and can, disseminate that knowledge to the entire world. I don't know, but
right. I'm sorry, I just was thinking, like, if I'm going to Bhagwan, then why would I sort of? But thank you, I understand.
Yeah, but it is there. Otherwise, the meaning of being a fully realized spiritual living entity in the spiritual world would not be complete if you do not have the complete knowledge as well.
Right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
In all respects, all living entities in the spiritual world have the complete knowledge, same as Bhagawan. So Bhagawan has complete knowledge, so do all the living entities have complete knowledge. Otherwise, it would be a contradiction that you are in the spiritual world, but you lack knowledge. So it would become it's a proof by contradiction. Because you are in the spiritual world, you must have all the knowledge. Otherwise, it becomes, how can there be a living entity in the spiritual world without all knowledge? Sat Chid Anand, full of
Sat,
eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So that is the translation of Sat Chit Anand, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So every living entity who is fully realized his Satchidananda Swarupa, he is automatically endowed with all knowledge. Whether he has a use for it or not, I don't know how to connect that.
Right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thanks. Anything else here?
So I think Prabhuji, I remember in the chapter 2 or 3, you had given that example, the Brahman, Bhagawan, and Paramatma of that cake in the other room. We can smell.
Yes.
That could also.
Yes. So one who is, yes, exactly right. The example I gave is that of
cake.
There's a very beautiful or a very, very nice cake. It is giving out wonderful aroma. Then it has a beautiful form, and it is very tasty to eat as well. So one who is afflicted, one who has been living, in the septic tank or in some very, very abominable condition where he is only getting the worst kind of food to eat, just by smelling the beautiful cake, he feels satisfied. Wow, I am in such a nice place. That is like Brahman realization. You don't see the cake, you don't eat it, but you just feel so blissful as compared to your previous situation in the material world. This Brahman situation seems infinitely better. So fast forwarding, then you get to see the form of the cake, you get knowledge about the cake. Oh, whether it's a chocolate cake, strawberry cake, vanilla cake, whatever, 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, whatever, you get all the knowledge about it. But that is still like, you only have knowledge, but no taste. Only when you eat it. So while you have the knowledge of it, you can also smell it. But when you eat it, you actually experience the rasa. And that is bhakti. And that is the Bhagawan realization through bhakti. So that is Ananda stage. That's when you get real Ananda. The first thing is, yes, you feel that you are in the spiritual situation when you are able to smell it. It is so much better, infinitely better than that completely degraded material situation. Then you are able to see the cake. So you get complete knowledge about it. But only when you eat it, you get ananda or bliss. And when you are eating it, you also can smell it, you can also see it. So all that is included. So that was the example which someone pointed out very nicely. So thank you.
So Prabhuji, the Brahman realization is only just feeling or seeing.
Now see, Brahman realization is spiritual. These are all analogies. Seeing, feeling is all through our senses. How do you see? Through your eyes. How do you feel? Through your mind. The spiritual realization is beyond all this. I do not have words. This is just an analogy. Okay.
So there is an Paramatma realization.
Yes. Chapter 6, verse number 7 defines Paramatma realization. If you open chapter 6, am I sharing the screen? Yeah. So let's go to chapter 6, verse number 7. Oh, we went to Bhagavatam. Sorry, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 7. What does it say? Jitatmanah prashantasya paramatma samahitaha sitoshana sukha dukkheshu tatha mana apamanayoha. So one who has conquered the mind, manah, jita atmanah. Atmana here is referring to the mind, okay, not your soul. So one has to understand it in context. So jita atmanah prashantasya. So for one who has conquered the mind, Paramatma samahitaha, he has attained the Paramatma realization by conquering the mind. And when you conquer the mind, you get all the Sitoshana sukha dukkheshu tatha man apamanayo. Mind has become completely transparent. The mind is completely in alignment with the soul. And the ahankar is gone. When the ahankar is gone, there is no difference between mana and apamana, between honor and dishonor. Shita ushana, between hot, heat and cold. Sukha and dukkha, between misery and happiness. So when the mind has completely been controlled or has been won over, has been conquered. So one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached Paramatma samahitaha, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. And how do you conquer the mind? By the process of meditation, not through jnana. Through meditation, through dhyana, you conquer the mind. This chapter, this verse is in chapter 6, and chapter 6 is titled Dhyana Yoga. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move forward. We still have 2 more verses to go. So 13.33 was the analogy of the sky. Then 34 and 35. So O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity with one within the body illuminates the entire body by consciousness. So the property, 13.34, the main property or the main, what we can call as the symptom of soul is consciousness. Okay, so the 2 words that are used is kshetra and kshetri. Okay, so kshetra is in this case the body, and kshetri is the resident within the body, which is the soul. Just like we in the previous chapter 2, the words that were used were deha and dehi. Deha is the body. Dehi is the resident within the body, which is known as the soul. So just like the sun illuminates the entire sky or the whole universe, the living entity, the kshetri or the soul, illuminates the entire body by its consciousness. 35, last verse. This is jnana-chakshu. So, what should one do? This is the conclusive verse, the conclusion. We should strive to develop jnana-chakshu. Okay, and what is the significance of jnana-chakshu? Why did Lord not say develop jnana? There is a significance of the word chakshu. Jnana-chakshu. By attaining jnana, then you must begin to see other things through this lens of jnana. So which means just acquiring jnana is not enough. Okay, one must apply the jnana. In this, or we can say, material world. And apply the jnana means by seeing the material world through the eyes or through the lens of jnana. And then you will be able to see in a better way. Your life will improve or will elevate spiritually. You won't shout at people. You won't, have malice or malintent or any such thing with other people. You will see other people as spirit souls. You will see Paramatma in their heart. And, there will be spiritual upliftment for you. So, jnana-chakshu, very important point. It's not just jnana. Jnana-chakshu, which means jnana, and then apply the jnana to see the outside world. So, those who see with the eyes of knowledge, kshetra-kshetrajna evam antaram jnana chakshusha. So the difference between kshetra and kshetrajna one should be able to see, which means one should be able to differentiate between matter and spirit. If somebody else is getting angry at you, you should be able to see that is his. What is getting angry? If somebody is getting angry, who is getting angry? Who can answer this question?
Body.
Yes, very nice. The body is getting angry at you. Body doesn't mean your physical body made of skin and muscles and bones and blood. Here in this case, what Makarand Prabhu by body he means also the gunas. The conditioning, his mind is also part of the material body. That is who is getting angry, not the soul. The soul is always unentangled and pure. So we can develop. Now this is very, very high level. Okay. I am also, don't think I am speaking these words, so I am at that level. Please. As some previous Acharya said, focus on my words, not on my actions. Okay. I am just repeating the words of Bhagavad Gita. I am not at this level personally. I am trying. In some areas, I am trying. I am like a small child who is trying to walk and keeps falling all the time. So I am not perfect by any means because I'm saying this. But still, Lord Krishna says, go and speak the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Just repeat it. So I'm just transmitting it in as a transparent way as possible. So please take it in that way. So with this knowledge, one should see that, yes, the doer is the body or the mind or the ahankar. The spirit soul inside is really pure. And that way we will get less affected or not affected by other people's actions as a result. So that is seeing through jnana-chakshu, through the eyes of jnana. So kshetra-kshetrajna evam Antaram. Antara means the difference between kshetra and kshetrajna is called jnana-chakshusha. Like that, you should be able to see the difference between body and spirit, or matter and spirit. So those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, kshetrajna, and there are two kshetrajnas, jiva-atma and Paramatma, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in the material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Purusa-prakriti moksham cha ye vidur yanti te param. So those who knows how to get moksha from this prakriti, how to get liberated from this prakriti, and they have that, those that have this knowledge attain the highest destination. And the process for gaining that knowledge is bhakti. So one of the very important, so that concludes this chapter. Very important verse of this whole chapter is 13.19, which establishes the process for jnana. It is counterintuitive. The process for jnana is not jnana yoga. The best process for jnana also is bhakti. Therefore, we must engage in Krishna bhakti. All right, so that completes chapter 13. And we are 10 minutes ahead today. That's a miracle. So next week, we will start chapter 14. We have class next week, right? Yes, we have class, same 2 hours class. We will start chapter 14. Are there any questions? Any announcements? Yeah, so, yeah, sure. So, no announcements today, except that, yes, tomorrow we will have our Ishopanishad class. Whoever is joining that or wants to join. Again, it is not that you have missed previous classes, so you cannot understand. That's not the case. Srila Prabhupada has presented each verse as a sort of, there is very nice spiritual knowledge from verse to verse. And I quickly will summarize what the context is, so you can always understand what is there in Ishopanishad. So that series we are doing on Saturday evenings. And we are going to start a new batch of Bhagavad Gita. And this will be a duration wise, it will be a 5-month batch, a short size batch, small size. So we will go much faster, not as deep as today, where we will go into the Sanskrit words of every verse and all. So we will complete it much faster in about 5 months, 4 to 5 months, not even 6. So please invite your friends if possible. If you liked this, please, or you are also welcome to attend. You will, probably our batch and that batch might end at the same time. So you will get a quick revision of Bhagavad Gita from chapter 1. And this batch will keep going on Fridays. Okay. Anything else? Any last minute questions?
A new batch का link क्या भेज दिया गया है? So that we can tell others.
I think it has been sent on the WhatsApp. Are you looking at our WhatsApp messages?
I will check. In between, I was not well. Maybe I have not missed.
We will send again.
I will send
the flyer and
We'll send the flyer again.
Okay.
But yes, you are welcome to attend. We request you to register. It's just so that for us to know how many participants are there and all that. And so we would like to know who all is there. But you can still, you can join this. It will be the same Zoom link as we have for this one. No difference.
Thank you.
The timing will be 5 p.m. Pacific time. So for India, it will be 6:30 a.m.
on Mondays.
On Monday morning, 6:30 a.m. All right, we can end soon. We can give back 7 minutes today. And we will start with chapter 14 next time. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.